I never believed objects could be haunted. I believed places could be, people could be, memories maybe, but not a doll. I was wrong. The doll came with the house, sitting on a shelf in my daughter's new bedroom. It had a porcelain face, cold glass eyes, and a small, careful smile. It wore a faded blue dress and held its hands neatly in its lap, a little too neatly. When I asked the previous owner about it, she just said, "It likes to be watched." I laughed. I really shouldn't have. That night, my daughter woke up crying. I rushed into her room. She was sitting straight up in bed, her little finger trembling as she pointed at the doll. "Daddy," she whispered, her voice cracking. It moved. I walked over and checked. The doll sat exactly where it had been. Same stiff position, same unsettling smile. I told her it was just a bad dream and tucked her back in. But as I turned to leave the room, I felt it. That cold, crawling sensation on the back of my neck. The feeling of being watched from behind. The next morning, I noticed something strange. The doll's head was tilted slightly to the left. I didn't remember it being that way before. It felt wrong, so I reached up and straightened it. As my hand came down, I realized my own head was tilted in the exact same way. I forced a laugh, shaking my head. It had to be a coincidence. Nothing more. But over the next few days, little things kept happening. Tiny glitches in my reality. I'd find myself rubbing my eyes from exhaustion, only to later glance at the shelf and find the doll's tiny hands raised to its face, as if it had already done it. I'd stand in the kitchen, arms crossed while I was thinking, and hours later, I'd see the doll's porcelain arms crossed over its chest too. But the worst part, the truly terrifying part, every single time I noticed, I got the chilling feeling that the doll had done it before me. My daughter stopped playing in her room altogether. She refused to be alone with it, her eyes always darting towards the shelf. "She copies you," she said one afternoon, her voice small and afraid. "No, sweetie," I corrected gently. "She copies me." She shook her head, her eyes wide with a certainty that terrified me. "No, Daddy, she does it first." That night, I'd had enough. I took the doll, opened the hall closet, and put it on the top shelf, behind some old blankets. I closed the door, and I locked it. It didn't help. In the dead of night, I woke up, not in my bed, but standing in the dark hallway. My arm was raised, frozen in the air. I couldn't move it. My eyes adjusted to the darkness, and I saw it. At the far end of the hall, the closet door was wide open. The doll was standing on the floor just outside it. Its arm was raised in the exact same position as mine. It was waiting. I don't remember deciding to lower my arm, but the doll did it first. A split second before I did. I didn't sleep again after that. I started watching myself, becoming hyper-aware of every movement, every unconscious habit, and slowly, horrifyingly, I began to understand. The doll wasn't copying me. It was rehearsing me. It was predicting my actions. It was like it already knew what I was about to do, before I even did it myself. I had to be sure. I had to run a test. I stood in front of the doll, placing it on the mantelpiece where I could see it clearly. I did nothing. I just stood there, waiting, my muscles tense. Seconds ticked by, stretching into an eternity. Then, the doll's painted smile seemed to widen. Its arm lifted slowly, and it pointed directly at my chest. My heart began to pound against my ribs. And then, my own arm lifted, as if pulled by a string. Against my will, it mirrored the doll, pointing right back at it. After that, things got so much worse. I'd find myself doing things I had no memory of planning. Suddenly standing in rooms I didn't remember entering. Holding objects I didn't remember picking up. My life was becoming a series of jump cuts, a film with missing scenes, and every single time I snapped back to awareness, I'd see the doll in a position that showed it had already done it. always first. It felt like it was pulling invisible strings, and I was the puppet. One evening, I noticed the doll sitting on my dresser, facing my bedroom mirror. As I stepped closer, I glanced at my own reflection. For a terrifying, heart-stopping moment, it lagged, just a fraction of a second behind my actual movements. But the doll's reflection in the glass moved instantly, perfectly in sync, too perfectly. And that's when I realized it. The doll wasn't imitating me. It was imitating the version of me that came next, the future me. My daughter came to me later that night, tears streaming down her face. She said the doll had told her something. I knelt down and asked her what it was. She leaned in close and whispered, her words like ice in my veins. "It says you don't belong in your body anymore." That was it. I was going to destroy it. I grabbed a hammer from the garage and went to the living room. I snatched the doll from the mantelpiece. My hands were shaking uncontrollably. The doll's hands were steady, its porcelain fingers already gripping the spots where mine would. I raised the hammer high above my head, ready to bring it down and shatter it into 1,000 pieces. But the doll raised its tiny arm first, pointing behind me. I couldn't help it. I turned, and I saw myself, standing in the doorway, still, empty-eyed, waiting. The next thing I remember, I was sitting on the shelf, looking out through cold, unblinking glass eyes, watching my body walk away. It moved just like I used to, except now. He was smiling, and I finally understood. The doll doesn't imitate you. It practices. It practices until it gets you right. My daughter still talks to the doll sometimes. She says it's quieter now, calmer, like it's finally finished learning. And when I watch my body move around the house, I notice something terrifying. Sometimes I move before the doll does. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more.